Mindless scrolling on our phones. We all do it as neurodivergents before bedtime and also when we wake up. I suspect that the reason many of us do that is because of dopamine dysfunction, a phenomenon that has been observed in the brains of ADHDers and autistics. And when we wake up first thing in the morning, just like when we go to bed at night, we are operating at some kind of deficit. We are trying to replenish our dopamine reserves so that we can get out of bed and get going, just like we need to replenish our dopamine reserves at the end of a very long, busy day. And when we wake up, that's why we spend that 10, 15 minutes, sometimes even longer, just scrolling mindlessly through our news feeds, checking our socials, reading things, watching videos, replying to comments on our videos or other videos that we've watched. We're doing kind of like box ticking, essentially, like it's a checklist, going through all of our stuff, checking it off, making sure we've reviewed this thing and gotten updates on that thing. And that slowly replenishes our dopamine to the extent that we're then able to swing our legs out of our bed and go about our daily business, getting ready for our day, whether it's personal hygiene, washing up, showering, tending to our responsibilities like walking our dogs. We need to get our dopamine levels regulated before we're able to even function. At least that's been my experience and many of the experiences of ADHDers I've spoken to. And there's a lot of shame attached to that need. And I want to stress here that it is a need. It's not laziness or some other negative label that we have internalized from ableism and we're adding to this activity, because essentially we're doing it to motivate ourselves, not because we're lazy, but because we're struggling to get things moving. And we know instinctively, without even thinking about it, that we have to do this one thing. We have to doom scroll to get ourselves into a state where we're able to actually start our day. And that shame often makes us perceive ourselves to be inferior or deficient in some way, because we can't operate like, let's say, neurotypicals might, where getting out of bed is a lot easier of a process than it is for some of us, especially ADHDers. One thing that I find helpful is that I don't want to give that up because I need that, personally speaking, when I wake up. And often it's the only time of the day where I'm going to really be able to check all my feeds, my news feeds, my socials. I'm quite busy during the day, so I feel like it's an adequate reward. It's a fair reward to give myself first thing in the morning and the end of the day, as long as it isn't all-consuming and doesn't stop me from actually getting out of bed and doing the things I need to do. If it becomes excessive and you get stuck, you engage with a click hole and you start getting lost in it, and then it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes or longer, then it becomes probably a little bit problematic, because it's a huge chunk of your day. Might not seem like much, but it adds up over time. You're spending it doing this rather than actually engaging in life. It can be helpful to replace that activity or supplement it with some form of mindfulness first thing in the morning. Some people say, I can't do mindfulness, my ADHD brain skitters around too much, and I am that person as well. I've tried all kinds and I get bored, I get distracted, and my brain can't focus. I personally like to do my own modified form of mindfulness when I wake up first thing, and it does help with the dopamine dysregulation, I honestly believe. And for me, it's doing the 4-7-8 breathing technique. And you can do any variation of that, like box or square breathing. And I just sit there and I count the numbers in my head and I breathe and I let my mind wander, but it's deeply relaxed while I'm wandering. It's just kind of doing the average background noise that the ADHD brain has, where it's just kind of processing and going through things. I'm not engaging with it. That's my form of mindfulness. I just let it go and I sit there and do the breath work. And it used to be quite onerous when I first started, because it felt like I hate this mindfulness stuff. Like, focusing for long periods is painful. But when I started doing it over time, it became deeply relaxing, and it became this brilliant start to my day that helped me reset and feel ready. It helps me regulate myself, and when I forget to do it later on the day, anxiety does crop up. So it's kind of like protective mechanism. It's prevention rather than cure. Of course, you can still use mindfulness if you do become stressed later on, but for an ADHD brain, a great way to kind of compensate or cope with dopamine dysregulation and the many other challenges that spring out of it is to kind of ground yourself first thing in the morning. So looking at maybe not necessarily replacing that scrolling habit, but supplementing it with something that is mindfulness oriented to help ground you and prepare you for your day, get you in the right state of mind, and help prepare you, I guess, for the challenges, the overwhelm, the executive functioning that's demanded of you, by starting with a clean slate. And mindfulness, for me at least, has been very helpful in that sense. And again, I want to stress, Not all forms of mindfulness work for all brains. Find the one that works for you. Experiment. Try something simple. If it feels too complex, if it feels like you're getting caught up in not getting it right, and then you're criticizing yourself and bashing yourself about not being able to do mindfulness because you're broken, your brain doesn't work the way it needs to work, you need to find something that's a little bit easier and kinder, and have it be as low stakes as possible so that there is essentially no way to fail. That's why I love doing 478 breathing, personally speaking, is because I'm like, I can't really fail at this. All I'm essentially doing is just sitting here and breathing and counting and letting my mind do whatever. Have you found mindfulness is a good way to kind of start your day, maybe in addition to or a substitute for doom scrolling and just engaging with your social media feeds? Have you found that it helps center you going forward? Is it a challenge to do mindfulness? What function does the endless scrolling serve for you, do you think? Do you feel like there is some form of inner deficit that is needing to be met, and that's what the activity does? Does it help prepare you? And do you get caught in that shame spiral of criticizing yourself as being lazy and not functioning and feeling inferior because you can't just roll out of bed and get ready for your day? I would love to hear from you.